It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching America First. My name is Nicholas J. Fuentes. We have a great show for you tonight. Very excited to be back here with you tonight on Wednesday. We have a lot to talk about tonight, lots to get into. Big show. It's actually another slow day. Not going to lie. Very slow news day. Not a lot to discuss. It's another show that I'm on the road, and fortunately, this is going to be the last show this week that I'm not in the studio. I'll be back in the studio tomorrow with Alex Jones in the morning, and then I'll be doing my show back at the regular place tomorrow night. So tonight is the last laptop stream, and it's actually good because the news has been pretty slow the past couple days. We're not really missing anything big. But our featured story tonight, we're going to be talking all about a apparently new decision in the White House that they're only going to import white refugees in the future. And I got to say, some of the stuff the Trump administration is doing, it is low-key kind of based, okay? It is kind of tough. And I give you permission. It's okay to glaze Trump a little bit. It's okay to say Trump is based, because some of the stuff I just love to see. Today, the State Department is posting all these people that they've revoked their visa because they celebrated Charlie Kirk's death. And so I don't know if you saw, but on State Department's Twitter account, they're posting one after the other. These are apparently visa holders in America from other countries who are laughing about Charlie Kirk, and the State Department says on Twitter, visa revoked, we're taking your visas. And I was like, okay, low-key shit's kind of tough. Like, okay, it's kind of awesome. And then today, and we'll get into this, the featured story is that they're only going to bring in white refugees, get this, who oppose immigration. So it's not even like they're bringing in white refugees who are liberal and gay. They're bringing in white refugees that are based and that don't want more immigration. And specifically, in some of the conversations surrounding the policy says they're prioritizing immigrants who will assimilate, and naturally those are the white people. And I gotta say, I like it. I just wish we got more and in a systematic way. And I was talking to some friends earlier today, and I said, this is good stuff. Like ICE in Chicago and pushing down the protesters and revoking the visas of people celebrating Kirk's death and this. It's great stuff, but it's just not enough. It just feels like a school pizza party slice of pizza. It's like you get like a narrow, like little slice of pizza, Dixie cup full of Dr. Pepper. It's like we need the whole loaf. We need an extra large, extra cheese. We need a 2-liter. Like we just need more. We need more detention centers. We need more militarization of the cities. Like, bring in the National Guard everywhere. Like, bring them everywhere in every major city. You know, they sent in like 400 guys to Chicago. It's a city of 3 million people. Send in 50,000. Send in 100,000 soldiers and liberate the cities. Like, we don't have that much time. We're already almost a year in the hole here. We're coming up on January. That's 1 year. Midterms are next year, and it's just too little too late. You know, that's really my issue. But anyway, we'll talk all about this new policy. Sounds pretty good. And we have to sort of abandon the pretense. You know, it's kind of funny. We used to say, we probably said this, I don't know, like last week. People would say, are you against all immigration or just for non-white people? And you'd say, no, I think we should have no immigration from anywhere. Even from what, it's just enough. And now it's kind of like, no, we could use some more white people. Like we could switch it up. We've had 30 years of all Indians and Mexicans. Now let's switch it up. We can bring in some white people. We can bring in some white people if they have the right politics. I'm good with that. Immigration moratorium unless It's the new policy. No, but that'll be our main story. We're also going to talk tonight about regime change in Venezuela. And I don't know what's going on there, but it looks almost like inevitable now. We covered this last week. I think we talked about it a little bit yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. But the Trump administration is now going all in, it seems, on toppling the socialist regime of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. They've been bombing these small allegedly these vessels involved in drug trafficking. Now, the announcement from the White House today is that they're going to begin land-based operations. Trump said we control the sea. Now we're going to bomb the land. And there's a number of B-52 bombers, apparently, that were circling Venezuela all day today. I was watching this on Telegram. And at the same time, Trump authorized the CIA to begin conducting clandestine operations inside Venezuela. We don't know the nature of these covert operations, but we can only assume they're probably paving the way for a regime change. And maybe they're doing political activities, maybe they're organizing some rebellion, protests. You take out USAID, you bring in the CIA, it's the same stuff. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So we'll talk a little bit and give you an update tonight about Venezuela. And I have to say, I am in favor of doing something with Venezuela. But here's the problem. And I don't know if this was last night or if this was last week, but the story from the New York Times is that Rick Grenell had brokered a deal with Maduro that he was going to give us all of their stuff. He was going to give us their oil, their gold, that we would be a partner in any future gold or oil mining operations or extraction operations. He said that he would completely abandon China, Russia, Iran, any joint dual-use infrastructure projects, and basically Venezuela would align with Washington, which is what we want. That's what we've always wanted out of Venezuela. And by we, I mean the United States from the point of view of our foreign policy and the Monroe Doctrine. But they won't take the deal. And again, according to the New York Times last week, it was Rubio, the Secretary of State and the National Security Advisor, who gets in the middle of this and says, that's not good enough. We actually have to topple the government. And I do believe that should be a last resort, because there's too many negative externalities, too many risks. We talked about it earlier on a different show. It's risks to the homeland. It's risks of instability that might cause a refugee crisis. That already happened in the first term. Why not just take the deal? So we'll talk a little bit more about that tonight. Should be a pretty good show. Before we get into it, I want to remind you to smash the follow button on Rumble, smash the like button, leave a comment, let me know what you think about the show. My hair's a little messed up because I was wearing a hat. But how do I look? I have to say the camera hits different on the iMac. I don't know why, but I was liking some of the clips. I'm definitely fatter than I was 3 years ago when I did the on the road streams. But it's fine. I don't really care anymore. I also want to say, before we get into the news, we have some great new products on the merch store. People have been asking about the merch, and today we just released a brand new flag. I think you're going to love it. If you go to fuentes.store, we have 2 new items. We have the Wang Half t-shirt, white ass going hard as fuck. It says Wang Half on the front. It's me on the back. Do not wear that to your Young Republican meeting, please. People were saying, he wants us to hide our power levels and be subversive. And then they're saying, what, he's telling us to buy a shirt with his face on it. Yeah, just like, I don't know, don't wear it out in public. Use your head. Don't wear it to the Young Republican meeting. Don't bring it to the group chat. But we got the t-shirt. The second new item we just launched today is the nativist flag. I believe it's the Know Nothing flag. It says, Native Americans beware of foreign influence. It's really cool. And if I could, I would show it to you, but I don't have it yet, and I can't pull it up on the screen. But if you go to fuentes.store, you can check it out. I think it's awesome. I think everybody should get one. I'm going to get a couple. Also, remember to subscribe at americafirst.plus, $15 a month. You get access to the entire archive. $100 a month club at americafirst.plus. You get to be in a group chat with me. And look, Customer satisfaction not guaranteed. I'm crashing out in there constantly. Yesterday I was just telling everybody, like, fuck you. I'm in the group chat doing the show, and people are tagging me during the show. And they're saying, like, when's AFPAC? When are you going to be with Tucker? And I'm like, shut up. Go away. So, customer satisfaction not guaranteed. You might not like how I respond. I might not like you. And you're not paying for me to like you. You're not paying for me to approve of your nonsense. And maybe I will, though, and maybe I will like you, but that's not a guarantee. It's $100 to shoot your shot. $100 to get the title shot. But I can't promise. In fact, actually, most of the people I think I don't like, actually. I think most of them I don't like. But if you go $100 in, you get to see if you'll be one of the rare people that actually like in the group chat. So that's AmericaFirst.plus. We're going to get into it. Before we do, I just want to say quickly, it seems that all the evidence now, to follow up on the show last night, and just a quick summary, last night we covered this article in Politico, and it's a lot of drama, it's a lot of nonsense, but basically there's this conflict in the young Republicans, which it's like, is that even still a thing? Like, isn't that for teenagers? I don't know why people even care, but I guess there was a major rivalry in the Young Republicans between Gavin Wax, the former chair of the New York Young Republican Club, and some other guy. And they get in this big feud, they get in this big beef over a committee position. Who's going to be the committee man for the Young Republicans? Like, do you hear yourself? I want to look at Gavin Wax in his Jew face and say, do you fucking hear yourself? Committee man of the Young Republicans? Grow up. I mean, aren't you like pushing 30? You're still a young Republican. Like, get a job. He's at the State Department. Why do we need this? So anyway, Gavin Wax gets passed over for some stupid student council president position by this other guy. And in retaliation for having his valor stolen from him, he blows up everybody that's working for the other guy. And it's this group chat of about a dozen young Republicans, 7 months worth of messages, an archive. And they're making edgy jokes. They're joking about gas chambers and Hitler and watermelon people and monkeys and stuff like that. And it's harmless. I mean, it is just jokes at the end of the day. But of course, now all those people are fired. As of today, every single one of those people has been fired. And some of them are lawyers, and some of them are in politics. One of them is a state rep. They're all over the country. And all those people have been fired. And these are, not all of them are white, but most of them are young. They're all young guys. They're all very conservative. I don't know if they're groypers, but I imagine they're mostly on our side. And I said last night, that kind of friendly fire just can't be tolerated. What kind of house of cards bullshit do you think you're on? What kind of power trip? Leaking group chat messages to Politico to get these guys fired because you didn't get your Young Republican committee assignment? And anyway, the update today is that more and more evidence is coming out that Gavin Wax was responsible for the leak. He ruined these people's lives. Anything that happens to them is his fault. And I said last night, read the room. We're in a climate where the Democrats are trying to kill us. And I don't usually talk like that, especially not lately. By that I mean maybe in the past couple of years. But ever since Charlie Kirk got shot, it's sort of a wake-up call. I said this the other day, I'll just repeat it quickly. He got shot in the neck for being 40% as conservative as me. And they celebrated. They danced, they celebrated, they're marching down the street saying, he's a racist bastard, we're glad he's dead. This is BLM, these are Antifa, radical left types. Gavin Newsom today said that the House should investigate the people in the group chat. He said that Congress should actually appoint like a subcommittee and investigate the people in the group chat. And Chuck Schumer is running with this, Gavin Wax's buddy. They're all the Democrats are running with this and saying it's not enough that we destroy their lives are ruined. We have to destroy everybody's lives who thinks like this. They want to investigate all Republicans, all young conservatives, all right-wingers, and find all the groypers, all the group chats, all the Hitler jokes, and wreck all those people. And you know that if the Democrats get in power, maybe they issue a subpoena. If they come back in the presidency, then they got the DOJ on their side. That kind of treachery, like Gavin Wax, has to be the op now. And I'm not calling for violence against him. I just want to make that clear because of the climate that we're in, obviously. But this guy needs to be straight up blacklisted from everything, needs to be blackballed. And I said this the other night, if you have his number, if you know this guy, it is your obligation to text him and call him and say, "F you. We want nothing to do with you. You are dead to me. We will never talk to you again. We will never add you to a group chat, call you on the phone. You're done." And I said that J.D. Vance said the right thing about this yesterday. And it's true, it was pleasantly surprising. Vance defended the young guys and said, this is jokes. These are college kids making jokes. Meanwhile, on the left, they want to kill everybody. But it needs to go further than that. And there needs to be from the right wing. They're all canceling these people, by the way. The Young Republicans chapter, Mark Levin, they're digging their heels in. They want these kids destroyed too. And I'm glad that guys like Vance and Matt Walsh and others, to their credit, they're sticking up for them. But it needs to go further. And people need to say, maybe we can't repair these young kids' reputation. The damage is done. The screenshots are out there. We know what we know. But now Gavin Wax needs to pay a price. These dozen kids, they had their lives destroyed because they made jokes in the company of people they thought they could trust. Gavin Wax betrayed his own side, his own people, for no reason. It's not like, and you could argue these guys are being careless. But this is like he fed them into a wood chipper. He fed them to the left and then brought down the heat on everybody. The Democrats now want to come after everybody because of young Republican bullshit. Now this guy needs to have his life ruined. But I'm going to tell you something, and this is a red pill for every young white man in politics. Listen to this and listen well. Gavin will never be held accountable. Never. These young guys, they're done. Dunzo. Forget it. These dozen guys in the group chat, their lives, their careers are ruined. They'll come back in some form in years after they apologize and eat shit for a long time, and maybe they won't even work in politics. They'll be lucky if they get some other job. And that's because they were making jokes, probably the same jokes that Gavin makes in his own group chats. The reason that Gavin will never be held accountable is because he's Jewish. That is a fact. That's not paranoia. That's not prejudice. Gavin Wax, unlike these kids, has very powerful friends. He's a delegate for the Zionist Organization of America. He's taken photos with Chuck Schumer, with his grandma who survived the Holocaust in Italy. That's not even a joke. That's real. Chuck Schumer, the same guy that's lighting up these kids and calling for them to be destroyed, Gavin Wax takes pictures with Chuck Schumer because they're Jewish. And on Holocaust Remembrance Day, that's when they remember it's all in the family. So it's the same reason that Mike Bartell, the guy that got blackmailed, is at the Small Business Association and Gavin's at the State Department. It's the same reason that Patrick Casey can't get a job at DHS, but Darren Beatty's also at the State Department. Why do you think that is? All the groypers, all the non-groyper young white men getting into politics, they're coming by themselves. They don't have their cousins and nephews, their donors. They're going into this as college Republicans, bright-eyed, idealistic, looking to make a difference. These guys like Gavin and Darren Beatty, Mark Levin. Mark Levin dines with the President of the United States, and Trump listens to him. And that's because Levin is, who else was at that meeting? It was another high-powered Jewish donor when they convinced him to bomb Iran. And so every young white guy needs to kind of understand these people are not on our side. They don't play by the same rules. They don't think of us the same way they think of each other. When the chips are down, they will be protected. You will not be. And it reminds me, the perfect other example of this, the companion piece to this, is during the frat bro uprising. You remember last year when the progressives took over Columbia and UCLA protesting Israel, and they occupied the campus. You had this frat bro uprising of patriotic young Gen Z students that were rebuking the left. And it turned out, where did this start? UNC Chapel Hill in North Carolina. It was a Jewish fraternity leading the charge. It was an anti-Israel protest hosted by the left, countered by a pro-Israel protest led by Jewish fraternities. And they're waving, Israeli flags. But this was portrayed in the media like it was a generic left-wing protest and a generic right-wing protest. That's not what it was. Anyway, maybe you remember some of my coverage of this. A lot of young white men really bought this hook, line, and sinker. They saw these UNC Chapel Hill Jewish frat bros waving their Israel flags, fighting with leftists who hate Israel. They got tricked into thinking this was like some pro-America frat bro Zin thing. They got tricked into thinking it's not about squelching and suppressing pro-Palestine activism, but actually it's about like beer and Zin and like the American flag and like trucks and country music or something. Some of them made the mistake of thinking it was real. And I'll never forget at Ole Miss? It was one of these universities in Mississippi. Is that even a school? I don't even know. I believe it was a school in Mississippi. Some white frat kid went to the frat bro uprising, and he made monkey noises at one of the black protesters from the left. That guy got expelled. That guy got suspended and then expelled. Bill Ackman did not give him $10,000 to throw a rager like he did for the other guys. Nobody defended him. Actually, everyone threw him under the bus. And it's like, you see this play out over and over again where it's like, these Jewish people, they get all the privileges, they're protected, they come in with the mafia, like they did at UNC Chapel Hill, like Gavin Wax at the New York Young Republicans, very Jewish city. And white people make the mistake of thinking, oh yeah, we're going to join and we're going to protest too. And then they go a little too far, and then they get chopped off at the knees. And suddenly it's not a joke anymore. Suddenly it's not funny. There's no money for a rager. Suddenly, this like cancel culture is over, solidarity, that all goes out the window. That happened to that guy. You think he's having a great time, he's done. Same with these kids. And so this is a message specifically to these college Republicans. A lot of them think that I'm like, they think that the Zionists are people we can work with. They say, they really buy this shit that anyone criticizing Israel's a third worldist and, with Zionists you win. Like, they really believe that. This is another example. They will not help you. They will, and I don't care. Yeah, some of the kids in the group chat, like, they're not the best looking guys. Like, a lot of them are fat. It is what it is. It's whatever. They're young Republican nerds. Regardless, they will never protect you or take your side. And this is an important lesson. Gavin Wax will throw you under the bus. He will never pay the price for it. He will be protected. You are not protected. You will not have allies. And it's just a materially different situation for us than it is for them. And you can never forget that. So, if anything, this is a teachable moment about two things. One is better OPSEC. We don't need to impress everybody by edgelording. If you're in one of these group chats, put on the disappearing messages today. Clear the group chats. Put on disappearing messages on Telegram, on Signal. Make it a day, make it a week. Just put on the disappearing messages and clean up the act. That's why I make fun of these guys when the super chatters are saying, oh, Austrian painter. I'm making fun of you because we're past edgelording. And I kind of do some funny jokes, and I'm edgy, but I'm not edgy for the sake of being edgy. Sometimes I'm edgy because it's funny. We are past the point where we need to impress each other by making the dumbest jokes from 2017. I know people got red-pilled yesterday, but we gotta be very careful about that stuff. That's one. And two, it's a lesson I tell everybody all the time. Serves you right. You trusted one of these people. And Gavin will float away on a golden parachute, on a parachute made of 30 pieces of silver, and everybody else is going to be in hell. They're going to be in young Republican hell forever. They're going to be dealing with these hit pieces for the next 10 years of their life. You Google these guys, a national story from Politico is going to come up where they said gas chambers are funny, and they're going to be explaining that to their employers, their family when they move back home, and it's going to be just general suckage for a long time. And that's how it is for us. And it's not like that for them. So if Gavin is held accountable, I will say that's evidence of a strong movement. I will say good, but I doubt it's going to happen. The guy should lose his job. He should be ostracized for this. This is an unforgivable offense. He should be in the wilderness for 10 years for this, but he won't be because Mark Levin's on his team. Because Mark Levin and Laura Loomer and Josh Hammer and all these cocksuckers that they pretend to hate, they're all really on the same team. And yeah, they have their disagreements, but it's intramural. He will be protected, mark my words. He will be kept safe from this. So J.D. Vance can say whatever he wants. Vance could say these guys shouldn't be fired. It doesn't matter. They will be. And Gavin Wax will be fine. And he did it. He fed them to the left. Internalize that. I hope you feel impotent because you are. I hope you feel frustrated because you are frustrated. You are nothing, okay? And by that, I mean these like young kids. You got no power. So take your own side. If you're feeling impotent, if you're feeling powerless, good. Internalize that. Take your own side. Stop, all these motherfuckers were dutiful board members for Gavin Wax at New York Young Republicans, and they were insisting to me in private, no, he's a good guy. No, you got to give him a chance. He's a good guy. I said, he's a fucking degenerate Jew, and I don't trust him for 5 seconds. He's a Zionist. He's a delegate for the ZOA. I said, I trust this guy as far as I could throw him, and I'm not a big guy. So, but they all told me, no, he's cool. It's great. It's fine. He'll work in the State Department. I'll work in some lowly agency or department. It's fine if he gets the glory. He's one of ours. Like, no, dude, no. Take your own side. And people even said he's flirting with Catholicism. He's not flirting with Catholicism, bro. He is not. Give me a break. You got to stop falling for it every single time. If they're not at the Catholic Mass, if they're not at the brunch, they're not one of us, okay? If they can't go to the brunch because they can't enter the house of God because they hate us, they're not one of us, okay? So anyway, it's very, very important as we climb up the mountain. Like I said, we're pursuing, I wouldn't even call it an infiltration strategy. I would say it's an elite human capital strategy. People have it twisted. They say you're advocating infiltration. I'm not really. I'm advocating for people reaching their maximum potential and becoming as elite as possible so that then what they believe matters in any form, whether they're in an institution, outside the institutions, whether they're open or private about their beliefs, and that does involve some deception or concealing. You just need to keep this stuff in mind. You need to know the rules of the game. These are the rules that people had to learn the hard way. It happened to everybody. It happened to Scott Greer. Ask Scott Greer, deja vu all over again. Just briefly, then we'll move on. I can tell we're not going to get into Venezuela because I'm procrastinating because I don't want to talk about it. But briefly, Scott Greer, he's one of these guys where, 10 years ago, everybody's emails from Breitbart got blown up by Katie McHugh. This is like ancient history, ancient lore. I feel like the lore keeper, the scribe, the elder. 10 years ago, in the heyday of the alt-right, the alternative right, properly understood, was decimated by a very high-profile, very similar email leak. I think it was in 2018. And Katie McHugh, she was some bimbo. She was dating one of the guys. She got access to the emails, some email server that everybody was named in. She gave it to BuzzFeed, and it blew up it nuked everybody. And many people, like Scott Greer was at Daily Caller, people forget, for a long time. He was on Fox News, he had a book. He struggled for some time. And it was stuff like this, and it's like, this is just, it happens over and over, and it's always going to be part of it. And some people didn't get named in it and survived, and some people got destroyed. And I said it the other night, we're in a war. You fight battles. Some battles you win, some you lose. And in the battle, sometimes you're moving up the field, sometimes you're getting pushed back. It happens. It doesn't mean it's not worth it, but you just want to know the rules of the game. And it's like you can't trust women. You can't trust people like Gavin Wax. Can't trust them. And understand they will always recover and you can't. Like they will blow you up and no one will help you. All this stuff about All in the Family, it doesn't matter. And I'd like to see Matt Walsh and Vance. Why don't you say something about Gavin Wax? It's very easy to bitch about the leak. you know what, on some level, they had it coming with the leak. They were being dumb. They trusted the wrong person. Like, it is what it is. But why then are not they going on the offensive against the guy that did them in? That's what I want to know. And I think we all know the answer. He's protected. But anyway, so that's that. Just a little recap on last night, because it's becoming very clear that he was responsible. I don't know that he's denying it. I'm not sure, but I don't know. And I saw his Twitter today. He said, people say they're against cancel culture. Now they're saying I should be canceled. Yeah, you're a traitor. You're a fucking rat. You're a rodent rat scurrying around, talking to political reporters, giving them 7 months of chat logs where people are making Hitler jokes because you didn't get your committee assignment. Like, give me a break. Should be 0 quarter for that guy. Anyway, so I'll do it. And if anyone can help me knock that guy down a peg, please tell me. I will lead the charge. He needs to pay for that. Like I said, don't attack this guy violently, anything like that. That just give them what they want. You know, then they go cry to the ADL. But this guy should be ostracized from all Republican circles. It's treachery. But I do want to move on. I want to get into the story about the white refugees. And it'll be a shorter show. Then we'll get on into the super chats. This is from the New York Times. And I got to say, credit where it's due. Here's your credit. Credit where it is due. The Trump administration they do have some good people in there. I'm not going to say the admin is good or bad, because there's bad people in the admin and they're doing bad things. There's good people in the admin. They're trying to do the right thing. And it's a battle. Like anything else, people don't understand. Inside the administration, it really is a tug of war. And it's bureaucratic. And so, for example, there's guys in DHS, they want the workplace raids. They want ICE to show up to Home Depot or to the farms or the meat packing plants. And they want to throw everybody out. Like, they want this at DHS and ICE. Susie Wiles does not. These guys want all the farmers to go. Stephen Miller wants to give them H-2A visas. I'm not making this up. This is real. So, you know, when we look at the Trump administration, we have to be even-handed and we have to be fair. And I hate the word nuanced, but we have to be nuanced and precise. There are some good people, some bad people, and consequently, there's some good policies and some bad ones. And this is certainly, if this happens, I think this is great. The big story today is that the Trump administration is considering prioritizing white refugees from countries like South Africa, specifically those that are assimilable and against immigration. And I saw this, and my first thought was, man, for years we have been saying we want no immigration, even white people. But at the same time, I'm like, we want more white people in America. It's actually safe to say, this is fine. I'm fine with it. We've had 30 years of infinite Indians, Chinese, Hispanics. Let's give some white people a home. Let's give some white people a chance here. And this is the story from New York Times. We'll just talk about the policy. It says, quote, the Trump administration is considering a radical overhaul of the U.S. refugee system that would slash the program to its bare bones while giving preference to English speakers, white South Africans, and Europeans who oppose migration. Love it. The proposals, some of which already have gone into effect, would transform a decades-old program aimed at helping the world's most desperate people into one that conforms to Mr. Trump's vision of immigration, which is to help white people who say they are being persecuted while keeping the vast majority of other people out. Okay, well, what's wrong with helping white people? Haven't we helped enough non-white people? When is enough enough? We've helped like 70 million non-white people come here in a few generations. That's not enough. We can only help non-white people. White people are being treated badly in South Africa. We can't help them because they're white. We only help non-white people forever, and that's it. So I don't, it's even in the wording, it's just dripping with like contempt. It's like white people is just automatically a bad word. Oh, he wants to help white people. Okay, why is that a bad thing? Isn't that a good thing? I'm white. I want to help white people too. It says the plans were presented to the White House in April and July by officials in the state and Homeland Security departments after President Trump directed federal agencies to study whether refugee resettlement was in the interest of the United States. Mr. Trump had suspended refugee admissions on his first day in office and solicited the proposals about how and whether the administration would continue the program. The proposed changes would put new emphasis on whether applicants would be able to assimilate into the United States, directing them to take classes on American history and values and respect for cultural norms. They also advised Mr. Trump to prioritize Europeans who have been targeted for peaceful expression of views online, such as opposition to mass migration or support for populist political parties, maybe like Dries van Langenhoven, who they want to throw him in jail for no reason. So I like this policy, and let's be perfectly honest just about immigration and race. I think it's actually a controversial question whether non-white people even can assimilate at all. And there's further questions. Can non-white people ever, on any timeline, under any circumstances, assimilate? I don't know. That's maybe the most controversial question to ask. And it begs the question, what is assimilation? And we understand the basics. Do you speak the language? Do you practice the culture? Do you understand the founding documents? Do you observe the holidays, the national, federal holidays, or religious holidays? Maybe you say it has something to do with being a Christian. But on some level, assimilation is deeper. It means, do you see yourself as American? And what does that mean? I don't think even black people see themselves as American. Some of them do, and some of them are patriots, and many black people love America. But when they're trying to get their own national anthem, their own flag, their own Independence Day, their own founding fathers, is that assimilation? And how long have they been here? 400 years? They want to have a red and green American flag to reflect their favorite cuisine. They want to have their own national anthem. They don't even sing the same happy birthday song. You know, they sing the Stevie Wonder song. They want to take a knee for the flag. They have Juneteenth. Martin Luther King Jr. and Abraham Lincoln founded America with Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman. They want her on the money. They hate Thomas Jefferson. They hate George Washington. And it's not all of them, but that's a significant portion of them. So now, granted, blacks speak English. They've been here for 400 years. Many of them are Christian. They go to the schools. They're integrated on some level in the major metropolitan cities. They go to universities. But in some cases, even they have their own colleges, historically black colleges and universities. Are they meaningfully assimilated? Would they say, I'm American and I identify with another white person as American? I think that's a stretch. So who does see themselves as quintessentially American? I would say it's European immigrants. Polish, Italians, Germans. Like, there's Germans living in Pennsylvania for 200 years. They're as American as any English, Scots-Irish. Same with people, French. And they have their own ethnic flavor, but they see themselves as, yeah, I'm American. Do recent arrivals from Latin America? No, they don't speak English. There's so many schools in Chicago and LA where not a word of English is spoken in the entire building. They don't say the Pledge of Allegiance in English. How about these Indian immigrants? How about the Muslims? They're clannish. You know, and this gets even into, is assimilation possible at all? I don't know. I don't think so. For non-white races, I think it's exceedingly rare. But let's say maybe they can assimilate in perfect conditions. What would those conditions be? Well, only if they're vastly outnumbered by white people. I think those are maybe the only conditions where they can that would be perfect conditions for assimilation, is if they're surrounded by heritage Americans that have been here for 10 generations, and maybe over time they might assimilate. Under perfect conditions, that's a maybe. But we're far from perfect conditions. We have a country that's already so diverse and became diversified so rapidly. The people are coming here in such large numbers and forming ethnic enclaves. It's actually adverse conditions. If an Hispanic comes to Chicago and in 3 miles in any direction, it's all Hispanics that only speak Spanish and the signs are in Spanish and it's all their food and culture and parades and everything, how's it even possible? Even if you think it is possible, how's that going to happen? It doesn't. And the same goes for these Muslim cities they're trying to set up, like in Dearborn or Somalia. It's same with these Indian enclaves where they build all the new construction and they take over a whole subdivision. It's the same everywhere. And so this is the classic problem with immigration. First of all, you're bringing in huge numbers of people. They have nothing in common with us. They don't want to assimilate. The conditions are not such, even if it was possible for them to assimilate, and it never ends. There's never a pause like there was throughout American history where we open the door, we close the door, we open the door. And this was for Germans, Irish, Italians. This is for racially white, Christian, culturally European. This is for people that had a lot in common with the founding stock. Forget about people, you could say the Protestants diverged from the Catholics 500 years ago. You could say that, the Germans and the Italians are different sub-races. Indians have a different alphabet. They have a completely different religion. It barely came into contact with Europeans. They have nothing in common with us. And so I'm not going to sit here and pretend that on its face, whites are not better immigrants than non-whites for those reasons. The point of an immigration program is to make our country better. And necessarily, that means it can't make the country worse. And destroying the cohesion and the identity of the country definitely makes it worse. Like if the native people are one way and the immigrants are another way, and they obstinately refuse to give up their ways, then that creates a lack of cohesion, division. It creates this alien presence that is unfamiliar and foreign. And the bigger that it gets, the smaller that Native America becomes, the more it recedes. Immigration should benefit the natives, not replace them, not substitute them, not attack them, not form up a counter-identity in opposition to them. So I think that's an important first principle, and we shy away from it, and I have in the past too. No, not all immigrants are created equal. Whether they're, illiterate peasants from dysfunctional countries or like highly selected, specialized, high IQ people from another country, whether they're white or non-white. What their politics are. Like some immigrants are better than others. Some refugees are better than others. And it doesn't mean they're like genetically superior, like they're better, like they have more innate value, but they have more value they can provide to America. They are less of a threat to American identity than others. I think everyone understands that on some level. Even for that matter, the black people get this. In Chicago, where do you think they're dumping all these Venezuelans? They're dumping them in black neighborhoods, and not to do that like cuck boomer thing where you say, but it's just true. I mean, you got black people in the south side of Chicago, they sound like Trump because they're saying we don't want to be invaded by Venezuelans. Who does? You stay there. So I like the program. It's honest, and it says if we're prioritizing for assimilation, let's bring in some damn-ass white people. Let's bring in some English speakers for a change. We tried the other stuff. It's not great. Is anybody really thrilled about these recent arrivals? Does anybody say, awesome, more Indians, more Guatemalans, great, more, the Nigerians aren't the worst, actually. I'd prefer them to the African Americans on some level, but even then, it's like, no, I don't think anybody's really thrilled about that. We've been forced to acquiesce to it and to accept it and tolerate it, but no one loves that. Wouldn't it be nice to see some white faces come into Ellis Island? See some white people move into the neighborhood? And maybe they have a funny accent, but it's like they take care of their property and they're not, abusing emergency services, calling an ambulance every time they have a stomach ache. Wouldn't that be nice for a change? So I love it. I like the new policy. And but here's the thing, and this is kind of my caveat. They say some of this proposal is being implemented. Who knows if it will be fully implemented? It's just not enough. And here's the thing. I said before we introduced the topic, you have good people in the administration, you have bad people in the administration. It's a tug of war. It just shouldn't be like that. It doesn't need to be like that. And for me, people say, why are you so negative towards Trump? He's doing some good things, and I agree propositionally with what you're saying. But my experience, having been watching this for 10 years, is like we won the impossible victory 10 years ago. Like we beat Hillary Clinton, we beat the 16 Republicans, like we did it. And Trump got elected. And we played this game 10 years ago. The personnel battles, the chief of staff sucking the doxing everybody, like this thing with Gavin Wax, this is all played out already. And that was why the first Trump administration didn't make America great. That's why BLM tore through the cities. That's why we shut down the country with the pandemic. It's why we didn't build the wall. It's why we didn't withdraw from Syria or Afghanistan or Iraq. Like, let's be honest, the first Trump administration objectively was a failure. Who were the big winners? Tech companies. They made all the money when they shut down the economy, and the Amazon and Microsoft and Pfizer went through the roof. So the stock market did well. The people that own the companies did well. BlackRock did well. Pfizer did well. Amazon did well. Corporations that got their taxes cut, they did well. But everybody that was waiting for an infrastructure bill, a middle-class tax cut, anybody that wanted NAFTA thrown out or a tariff schedule, people that wanted the troops to come home, people that wanted a border wall, people that wanted mass deportations 10 years ago, people that wanted the job market not to be frozen and to be shut out by H-1Bs. They all lost. Like they did not get what they wanted. And that is because that agenda was thwarted. And it was thwarted because when Trump won in 2017, he didn't have any of his own guys. So Trump wins the election. During the transition, he taps Reince Priebus, the head of the RNC, to fill up the White House. And they fill it up with crap. They fill it up with people they just defeated, from Rubio, from Bush, from W. Bush. And it was a running joke in D.C. that if you were loyal to Trump and actually supported his agenda, it made you less likely to get a job in the White House and more likely to be fired if you had one. Because the people running the show hated Trump, hated his agenda. And so when people talk about, we got to pressure Trump on Twitter, we got to get our guys in there, we got to, there was like this campaign I talked about with Dave Smith during the transition this year. They said no to Mike Pompeo. We got to tell Trump he can't hire Pompeo. I'm like, aren't you people tired? We did this 10 years ago. We went through all this bullshit. The personnel, everything I'm describing, we went through this the first time. And I talked a lot about this in 2024. It's like it just should have never been like that ever again. It's like Trump should have learned his lesson. He should have only brought people loyal to him into the the third campaign. Only brought people loyal to him into the second administration. It should have been Project 2025. And it should have been like everyone's on board. From top to bottom, from Trump down through the State Department, Treasury Department, all the way down to the lowest level guy. It should have been like at least 5,000 Trump hires that were as based and loyal as like a John McEntee. Loyalty tests, ideological tests. Are you America first? Are you loyal to the president? Are you going to support a tariff schedule, ending the wars, deporting everybody? Because if you're not, get out. But it's deja vu. We're playing the same game. And now it's like ICE wants to deport everybody, but Susie Wiles says no. Okay, well, why the fuck is she here? She didn't support Trump through January 6th. She's a lobbyist from South Florida. What business But she's bringing her people with her. She runs a campaign. She's a Trump whisperer. She's at Mar-a-Lago, where Trump is in Palm Beach. She's bringing all the spooks from South Florida like Rubio and Waltz and Pam Bondi. Personnel is policy. And so what you have now is that we are entering the second year of the second Trump administration. It shouldn't have even been possible. Like, the guy took a bullet for it to not be like this, for him to just run the table and just do what must be done. I will send the army, I'm Jerusalem. Like, he should have just been able to really transform America, like New Deal style overhaul, and it's not happening. What they're doing is peanuts. Yeah, there's some nice stuff in there, but it's too little, too late. The clock is running out. The midterms are next year. They're playing games. We're doing the same shit. And so I look at stuff like this and I'm like, okay, so they're going to bring in a few hundred Boers or whatever. Like, how about we deport 10 million people? How about we say immigration moratorium? Defy the courts. Do whatever you need to do, but just like make the changes. But we're getting these like peanuts. And I said this last week, and some people, they deliberately misinterpreted it. I said, we're really barking up the wrong tree in a sense, because All Trump is doing now is pissing these people off. What are we really getting out of this? Yeah, we're getting some deportations. It's not terrible, but it's not great. It's not even really good. It's okay. But the Democrats, they think this is the Trumpenreich. Like, they think this is Hitler for real. They think this is the fascist takeover of America. The civil service is being gutted to clear the way, to cancel the elections so that Trump could be dictator for life, and we don't do kings here. Like, they're amped up, and they're shooting people. And, like, they think this is Avengers Endgame. You know, they think it's the Handmaid's Tale. They think they're going to chop Thanos' head off. So here's the thing. If you're not serious, if you have subversion from within again, you don't even control your own team, if you're doing not enough, but you're pissing off the enemy and they are taking it deadly serious, you're just barking up the wrong tree. What are we doing other than pissing these people off and daring them to kill us now? Because we're not doing enough stuff here. If we don't complete the mass deportations, if we don't send every Antifa leader to jail for the next 5 years, if we don't actually cripple the left, they could regroup. It's not, they might not. It just might not be in the cards, but they could regroup. They're going to come back in 26 and jam everything up, and everything's going to get harder. And then they're going to come in 2028, and then they're going to try and kill all of us, So they are not taking it seriously. This is not a game where you can lose. It's like you win or you die. We either win this game that Trump started in 2016. You either win that game where you come for the power structure and try to replace it. You either win and you're the new power structure, or everyone involved is rounded up and executed. So if you're not playing to win, you just shouldn't play. And that was always my gripe. When Trump X'd out Project 2025, at the behest of La Savita and Susie Wiles, I said, it's over. When Trump said, we're going to staple green cards to diplomas because we want to keep All In happy, we want to keep David Sachs happy, and, Joe Rogan is now saying he doesn't want to do the deportations. I'm like, well, this movement, if they're not willing to do what it takes, if they're worried about public opinion on any level, they're just not going to be serious. And, this is what I'm talking about. This is what's now happening. So everybody's always looking to lionize Trump. Because I'm so negative towards Trump, people are looking for every little thing that they could say, no, but this is good. See, Trump is doing great. Granted, yeah, Trump, it's not all bad. It's not all bad. A lot of it's actually very good. And we got a lot of guys in the administration that are good, and they're doing a good job, and they're trying to do right by the country, and some good stuff has come out of this, but it's just like, it's not enough. And that's not me making perfect the enemy of the good. That's not me being picky or, bitter. No, that's me understanding the knock-on effects. That's me understanding the second-order effects because I lived through it. It already happened. We did the first Trump administration. They took power and they tried to throw us in jail. They banned us from everything. They tried to make everyone get vaccinated. We lived through this, and it shouldn't have been like this a second time, but it is. And that's me just shaking my head and saying, man, these people never learn. Trump never changes. The people around him never learn. They weren't around for the first thing. They don't know how it went. So I just hope they get their act together for everybody's sake. Because if they don't, it's not going to be good. But that's that. We're going to move on. We're going to take a look at our super chats. We'll see what you guys have to say about all this.
All right, let's get right to it. So 2 things to discuss that Nick was focusing on. I'll give my insight. I'm going to be talking about Samuel Douglas, but this Gavin, what's the guy's name of the young Republicans, the guy that snitched. And what's funny is, I just went on his Instagram page, Gavin Wax. And, it is what it is. If he did what he is accused of doing, then I don't really feel too bad. But his first picture that's pinged is him proposing to his wife. And I'm looking at all the comments underneath. They got rat. We got us a rat. They got all these snitch allegations. I don't know. Maybe that's not funny to y'all, but it was funny to me. Just because if you sold yourself out, sold your group out for something like that, you deserve for people to call you out, no matter what the picture is on Instagram or anything. That's just a foul thing to do, in my opinion. Sucker move. But all right, so we're going to talk about that very quickly, and then we're going to move on and talk about these white European immigrants that Nick and Donald Trump are excited to come through America. So we'll talk about both. So first, I really want to focus on Samuel Douglas. So Samuel Douglas, he was the only elected official in the group chat of that young Republican group, and he's a state senator from northern Vermont. He heads the Young Republicans. Let me see if I can read a little bit more on him. All right, a state senator from northern Vermont who heads the state's Young Republicans. He heads the state's Young Republicans, is apparently the only elected official in the group chat. He is facing growing calls to resign over his participation in the chat, including from Vermont's Republican Governor Phil Scott. The hateful statements made in this group chat are disgusting and unacceptable. The vile, racist, bigoted, and anti-Semitic dialogue that has been reported is deeply disturbing. There is simply no excuse for it, Scott said in a Tuesday statement. Those involved should resign from their roles immediately and leave the Republican Party, including Vermont State Senator Sam Douglas, he added. Douglas in the group chat replied to Walker's remark about a very obese Indian woman after Junta, if I'm pronouncing that right, pushed back saying the woman was not Indian. So Junta, that's the guy, hold on, that's Peter Junta. So he was the one that, I think he was he's the former chair of the New York State Young Republicans. So he was what this article calls is the most prominent voice. So let me get back to Samuel Douglas. So Junta Douglas replied to Walker's remark about a very obese Indian woman after Junta pushed back saying the woman was not Indian. And he said, oh, I can't laugh. I can't smile when I'm saying this, bro. He said she just didn't bathe often, saying that she's not Indian. She just didn't bathe often. Come on, bro. Douglas added. So this is the state senator saying this. Pretty wild, but a lot of people are saying, like Nick, I believe, is saying, it's just a private group chat. It could be just a private group chat, but if you're saying these things, you know, a lot can be said in jokes. Like only certain people take jokes to a certain, you know, point. And even if it's a group chat privately, once it gets out there, then you're going to be held accountable for it. It just is what it is. You're going to be held accountable for it. Now, it should play out. If you make a certain joke that is not that offensive and people find out about it, then I'm sure people may or may not decide to hold you accountable to the point where they want to cancel you over it. But if you're saying certain things that may be significantly offensive, then it comes with it. It comes with it. So some people may not take jokes as seriously as others. And I guess Sam Douglas and others who make those type of jokes better just hope that their employers or their followers don't take jokes that seriously, I guess. But yeah, if you say certain jokes, you're going to be held accountable. I kept going back to what I would do if I was the CEO or the person making the hiring decisions or firing decisions, what I would do. If it was my company and somebody like this was working for it, I told y'all before, I would just bring them in and we would have a conversation about it. We would just have a conversation about it. And based on that conversation, I guess I would make my decision from there. But it wouldn't be necessarily just a black and white, oh, you said these things, you're fired. I don't think so. I think I would want to have that conversation. Because if somebody, you know, was convincingly apologetic, or I don't know, or if they just stood on it and said, this is why I said it, I don't know what would make me get rid of somebody or keep them. But it would definitely have to be an honest conversation. That would be the thing that is the biggest factor in my decision as the employer. But all of these people, I mean, you make certain private statements, and even it goes back to Nick, you know, obviously he's biased, I would assume, because that's what got him canceled. Private conversation that he didn't know was being recorded. And I'm assuming that's why he, you know, takes such offense when it comes to this guy, Gavin, that put this information out there. because it can ruin people's lives. It can ruin people's lives. But, you know, I would make the suggestion like, hey, just be careful about some of your jokes. You know, if you're worried about putting something in a group chat because it could potentially get out to other people, then you just may want to make sure that anything you say in that group chat, you're comfortable if it's going to be exposed to the world. Because, I mean, what is trust? Like, you can't trust anybody. People can screenshot your messages. We know how this type of stuff works. If you see how divorces work, you know, where people will start exposing any and everything with their ex-wife or ex-husband. So do we think that when these people split up or go their certain ways that they're not going to be petty and weaselly and shisty like this guy Gavin seems to have been? So that would be my take on that. I think I wrote down a few other notes on it. But as far as Samuel Douglas, like if you are serving in a position, then of course you're going to be held accountable to that. Just like any other politician would be held accountable to their private conversations. If it came out that Kamala Harris said something in a private conversation and it was offensive to a particular group, of course they would hold her accountable to that. I would assume the more information we can get in order to judge somebody. Now, you're not going to judge somebody solely based on that, I wouldn't think. I wouldn't want that. Like I said, even in my group chats, there's certain things that I'm sure I say that could be perceived as offensive to certain people. Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, if I'm held accountable for it, hopefully they look at that joke and then they also look at the overall body of my work and who I am, and they make a decision from there. I don't know. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. Let's move on to the next topic because I don't really have much more to say on that. I know Nick was getting ready to talk about Maduro, so I'm assuming we'll save that for his next show. So he gets into this conversation around Donald Trump's administration allowing and focusing on more white immigrants coming into the country. And he brought up an interesting combo. And I have to unpack it with y'all because I'm not even sure where I stand on it. So, excuse me. These are the thoughts that I was having. Nick complains about, or Nick made the statement that a lot of Black Americans don't necessarily come off as proud to be an American. We don't rep being American, right? Okay, cool. Put that to the side for now. When Nick makes the statements that, how do I want to put this into context for y'all? How do I want to put this into context? Give me a second. Let me get the thoughts together. No, don't get the thoughts together. Just say what you're feeling. Say what comes to mind. The people they'll give you some grace. All right, so what's the difference between Nick complaining about America and how America has not given young, white, disaffected men the opportunity to live the American dream? These are things that Nick talks about, how America needs to do more for the white Americans, right? And how a lot of these opportunities, whether he's talking about DEI, affirmative action, whatever it may be, that takes certain opportunities away from these young, disaffected white men in order for everybody else. Okay, so what's the difference with him making those complaints as a Black American making complaints about the country not serving Black people? What's the difference? Is the only difference that the white Americans who it's not serving, they just walk around with American flags, or they're more, prideful of America? Because to be totally honest, I'm even thinking about the immigrants that come in, and a lot of the white Europeans in this country are immigrants and don't have the ancestral connection to America that a lot of the Black Americans here do. So to me, it's very American to complain about America in a lot of ways. What group doesn't complain about America? What group, isn't that what makes America? The freedom aspect, the freedom to use our voice, free speech, the freedom to complain about things that we don't feel are in our best nature or benefiting us in certain ways. So I asked the question again, what's the difference between when Nick constantly complains about America not giving young white Americans an opportunity to live the American dream. What's the difference between that and other cultures? I'll just focus on Black Americans complaining about the country not providing Black people with the opportunities that Black people feel America should be providing. Even when you look at something like DEI, we all know that even though DEI is dangled in front of Black people as if it's something that's focused on Black people and beneficial to Black people, that it benefits white women and a whole bunch of other people before it even touches Black people. That's just another situation. Now, I'm somebody who doesn't like DEI more so because of the results. And I talked about this on the last show. I just don't think that it actually benefits Black people. And I think that it can be very dangerous for a group of people that Democrats, liberals constantly want to victimize and get them to embrace this victimhood mentality. So now it's kind of like a double dose where it's like impacting Black people even worse, because you have other groups of people that want us to feel like victims, want us to feel entitled, compared to, let's say, like the people that Nick may be representing. So I think that it does Black people a big disservice. That would be my complaint. So if we're playing the whole complaint game, and I say all this to say, like, I don't do the whole victim stuff. So when I hear Nick acting as if he's a victim, I kind of just giggle, because I guess now is the time where almost every single group in America feels like they're victims. Like young white men are feeling like they're victims. The LGBTQ community feels like they're victims. Women feel like they're victims. Black people feel like they're victims. Every single group feels like they're a victim and that America is not serving them as it should be. So getting back to the topic, should there be more white non-immigrants? I don't even care. I'll be totally honest with y'all. Like, I don't even care. Like I just found myself, as Nick was talking, kind of going through different things that he was saying. And even when he said, and it's like, even I have to make sure that I'm always checking myself, because I'll give you an example. When Nick said, he said something like a significant portion of us, and he mentioned a few different things that Black people do. And he was like, even, Black people want to take a knee. A significant portion of Black people didn't take no damn knee. Like, let's be real about that. And I get what Nick's saying, how overall, I think it's a lot harder, just being totally honest, for Black Americans to embrace being America just based on the history. Like, you damn near feel like you're selling out by saying, yeah, I'm a proud American, when you just look at the history of America, how it was founded, and how that mistreatment with slavery, people will act like it's, thousands of years ago. It is what it is. Keep that same energy when you talk about other people's situations that have happened to them, and they use it to further their agendas. But neither here nor there. I just, on this overall topic, I can understand, and maybe this is one of the reasons why I say, yo, I'm an American. I'm an American. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I've now have grown into saying this, or I've gotten to a point where I now say this, where I would not have felt good about myself, being totally honest, saying it before. So I don't know, but with the white immigrants, like, yo, bring whoever in. Like, all this stuff, it doesn't really bother me. But if I am looking at it from an American first perspective and what would be most beneficial to America, I don't think that America should just be bringing in people how, like, let's say the Democrats and liberals will bring them in. Bring in as many different groups of people that we can turn into victims, so that way they'll vote for us when it comes down to these elections. I don't like that. You know what I mean? I don't think that that's beneficial for actually America, especially when you're bringing in these people with the intentions of them having to be on these social programs. So you can provide all these programs to them, so then they'll feel like they owe you when it comes down to voting. I don't think that should be prioritized. If they want to bring in other people, I don't think that one of the priorities should just be whiteness. for me, it always comes down to how I identify my people overall. Like y'all have heard me say over and over, I don't identify my people based on race. I identify my people based on who aligns with my morals, principles, and values. So that would be my same suggestion when it comes to American immigration. You don't have to say white people. You don't have to say this. You don't have to say that. Whenever you start throwing in the races and stuff, it just gets in the way, in my opinion. But I would say, hey, we as America, we want to bring in people that align with our morals, values, principles, and integrity. Those are the people that are going to be able to adapt to the society and the culture of America. I know Nick always talks about, certain people coming into the country and assimilating. I can understand, especially when you look at a city like Dearborn, Michigan, and because they have such a large Muslim population, I can see how certain people would look at that and say, hey, they're playing over the loudspeaker, the prayers, throughout the day. I can see how living in America, that would annoy some people. Like my stance on it, if I had to be forced to lean one way or another, I would say, yo, I don't want any of that. Like, I don't want the religious anything being played over a loudspeaker in town, because then what does that turn into? Okay, you cool with one group doing it, then the other group's are okay doing it. Like, I just don't want any of that, overall. So it is important to understand what type of cultures are being brought into the country, because just like adding anything to any mixture, once you add something to it, it's going to change, the ingredients. It's going to change something in whatever it is that you have. So I think that I don't really have an issue with that. I think when we actually remove the whole black and white and this stuff, with the races, then we could just sit here and have a grown-up conversation and say, hey, we want certain people that are going to come into the country with these, principles, morals, values, all those things that I just named, because it's going to add and be a positive addition to the country, right? Rather than these people, where these people may, there's pros and cons to every group, right? So some of the cons may outweigh the pros, just based on, especially us as taxpayers, having to fund a lot of people that have been brought here in the past, having to make sure that they eat. So that's our taxpayer dollars. Make sure that they go to school. That's our taxpayer dollars, and other programs that may make sure that they have homes. So there's a lot of different areas to consider. But overall, those are my thoughts. I'm not going to bore y'all, talk y'all heads off too much, but hopefully y'all get what I'm saying. Let me look back at the notes, make sure that there wasn't anything else that I wanted to cover. I think I looked up something in Chat GPT, but I don't think it was relevant to all this. So as always, y'all know what it is. Like, subscribe, turn your notifications on, and most importantly, leave a message. All right. I'm biased. We're all biased. So sometimes our bias can create blind spots for us. So anything that I'm missing, make sure that y'all call me out on it, or call my attention to it, so that way I can process it, maybe see it from a different perspective than I'm currently seeing it at. So always interested in hearing y'all perspective. So on that note, I shall see y'all soon.
It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there.